Many of the jobs which might be displaced are those currently occupied by educated, highly paid workers.
So you can see really across the board that anyone sitting in front of a computer doing some sort of routine, predictable knowledge work, for example, if they're cranking out the same report or the same analysis again and again, all of that is going to be very susceptible to this. Journalism is one interesting area that's being impacted by this because there are now systems that can essentially tap into data and then they can transform that data into a very compelling news story that many people would read and they can't tell that it was written by a machine. In the future, maybe 90% of news stories will be machine generated.
The number of jobs displaced has the potential to utterly transform the economic landscape.
There have been a couple of studies done, most notably by a couple of researchers at Oxford University, and they've looked at a number of countries, and most of the results have come back suggesting that up to half of the jobs could be susceptible to automation, perhaps over the next 20 years.
That's 60 million jobs in the United States alone.
That's a staggering number. And obviously, we have a massive social problem. You'd have tremendous stress on government in terms of trying to take care of all these people that no longer have an income. I think that you would see the potential for a massive economic downturn because you would run out of consumers. You no longer have people that are capable of buying the products and services that are being produced by the economy.
A revolution on this scale wouldn't just transform an economy, it would have immense implications for our society.
We could really have just what you might call inequality on steroids. The very wealthy people who own all this technology are going to do extraordinarily well. You would have the potential for civil unrest, perhaps even riots or massive crime waves. In the United States, during the Great Depression, we had an unemployment rate of about 25%. And back then, there were many people genuinely concerned that that would result in the collapse of both democracy and capitalism.
This situation amounts to just about the end of the world as we know it, a science fiction nightmare straight from the movies.
There are some very prominent thinkers, like, for example, Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, who have raised genuine fears about the potential for advanced artificial intelligence. And their concern is that someday we're going to build a super intelligent machine. Imagine a machine that's 100 or maybe 1,000 times smarter than any living person. What would that system think? How would it act? Would it have a use for us? It might decide that we're simply a burden. It might decide to just get rid of us. So it could potentially present an existential threat. Is that something to worry about? I think that it's not a silly concern. It's not something that we should laugh at and just dismiss. There's really no endpoint to this. There's no point at which you can say, this is absolutely as far as we can go and machines will never go beyond this. We are reaching a new era, a time when things are going to operate differently, and we need to adapt to that.
Healthcare is one area of the economy already adapting to this disruption. And in this field, researchers hope that intelligent humans and intelligent machines can work together for everyone's benefit. The fourth industrial revolution, the era of artificial intelligence, has arrived. Computers are now mastering tasks once considered the sole preserve of humans and putting millions of jobs at risk. And now business leaders are wrestling with the potentially huge implications.
In general, robots of one form or another are going to become much more omnipresent in our lives in a good way. They'll replace a lot of repetitive activities that people are currently doing.
Robots will have a dramatic effect on the labor pool, lower the cost of products. People will start to realize that just about every manual task eventually will probably be done by a robot.
Martin Ford's books have highlighted the threat to the job market, but even he sees areas where artificial intelligence could be beneficial.
I do think that healthcare is actually one of the areas where the impact of artificial intelligence and robotics could be extraordinarily positive in the future. The burden on our economy is growing at a remarkable rate, especially in the United States. So if we can deploy more artificial intelligence and robotics there to make that more efficient, that'll be a great thing.
Analysts expect the AI healthcare market to generate revenues of over $6 billion by 2021, 10 times its current total. Young companies like Hindsight in New Jersey and Enlytic in California are mining data to improve patient outcomes across a range of illnesses. And in New York, IBM researchers have developed Watson, an intelligent software system at the forefront of this revolution.
It can understand somebody's personality type. It can look at email, for example, and tell you what is the tone of the email. What kind of messages are coming through, whether you intended them or not, right? It can look at, for example, a big encyclopedia and extract all the concepts and the relationship among those concepts.
Watson operates in the world of big data, extracting knowledge from the billions of facts and figures floating through cyberspace.
I look at the world from the point of view of the amount of data that there is and the amount of knowledge that is embedded or insights that's embedded in the data that we are not able to extract today, and therefore we are not able to make the right decisions. So the fourth industrial revolution to me is the ability to have a much better understanding of the world through all of the data and therefore making better decisions for it.
IBM is currently running a research project in which Watson augments the intelligence of medical professionals, helping doctors treat the most dangerous diseases in the world, including skin cancer.
Melanoma is a very deadly form of skin cancer, and it's something where early detection and intervention is key. So a dermatologist faced with a patient who has a skin lesion will make some assessment about the likelihood of a lesion being melanoma. So unfortunately today, dermatologists can make errors. Some melanomas are being missed, and some skin lesions which are perfectly benign are being excised needlessly. So what we can do here is essentially ask the computer to make a deep analysis over an image. So this image is then being sent to the computer and it's being automatically analyzed. And what the computer is telling us about this image is that there's a very high probability that it corresponds to melanoma. What we're finding in our own internal retrospective research is that the computer can be as accurate as 95%. So this compares to the best clinical experts today that are between 75 and 84% in recognizing melanoma. It is not a tool that would replace the clinical expert. Rather, it provides them with additional analysis over the skin lesion images by providing reaches into large databases of similar lesions.
This is a vision of a future where humans and machines work hand in hand, complementing one another's skills.
I look forward to a time when every professional, in fact 2-3 billion professionals around the world, are all able to have their own personal cognitive assistant that can help them do their daily jobs. And that changes the nature of expertise. Humanity will move to a completely different place in terms of expertise and how we apply our knowledge and our experience into real-world problems and therefore make the world a better place. Just like we've had machines that could augment people's muscles in the prior industrial revolutions, or can help people search vast amounts of information, like in the internet era. I look at the next revolution as machines augmenting people's cognitive capabilities. That's how I think about it.
Martin Ford remains cautious, believing artificial intelligence is going to fundamentally change the way we live and work, and challenge us like never before.
We're not prepared for the disruption that's coming. We're going to see things get worse before they get better. In particular, the impact on the job market and the impact on the incomes and the livelihoods for average people. So, in the short term, things could be pretty difficult, but in the longer term, if we do adapt to this, then I think there are reasons to be really optimistic. I mean, you can imagine an almost utopian kind of future where no one has to do a job that's dangerous or that they really hate or that's really boring, where technology takes on more and more of that. And if we can get to that point, of course, then that's a tremendously positive outcome. So I think that all of that is really possible, and it could be one of the best things that's ever happened to humanity, but it will require that we adapt to it, and that's going to be a staggering challenge.